Hello! While thinking about what I would like to focus on for this outreach project, I decided I would incorporate it into my own life. I just started at a new job, working with children, most around middle school age, and I thought it would be fun to create something aimed at them. The goal is to give a basic overview of the field of evolutionary psychology. Evolutionary psychology has fascinating insights that could certainly intrigue minds young and old. Ultimately, I hope that this presentation is both easy to understand and interesting for the young and inquisitive minds it was designed for. Enjoy. So today, we are going to learn about evolutionary psychology. And I know what you were thinking, what is that? Well, the good news is we are going to break it down piece by piece, and hopefully you will have questions and want to learn more. So let's get started. Who here knows what psychology is? Well, if you had any thoughts at all or pointed to your brain, you are on the right track. Psychology is the scientific study of mind and behavior. Psychologists are interested in all things concerning why we do the things we do and why we are the way we are. Pretty interesting, right? Psychology has to do with our brain, our experiences, and even our personalities. But that's a lot of things to worry about at once. So when studying psychology, we often break it down into smaller pieces. One of those pieces is evolutionary psychology. But before we learn what that is, we have to define evolution. Evolution in its most simplistic form is just change over time. Over millions of years, humans and other species have evolved. In other words, the version of human that you and I are is not the same species that existed millions of years ago. How do we know this? Well, first, how many of you think fossils are cool? Exactly. They're not only cool, those fossils give us clues to the past and how we are different from our ancient ancestors because of, you guessed it, evolution. Now at this point, I hope you were wondering, why do things evolve the way they do? Well, before we talk about this little thing called natural selection, we should remind ourselves who the guy was that came up with it. His name was Charles Darwin, and he also wanted to explain why these changes were taking place over time. Darwin was a very curious person. He wanted to know things like why elephants have trunks and giraffes have long necks. He also wanted to understand why some species go extinct and some survive for so many years. As I'm sure you've guessed by now, to explain these things, he developed his theory of natural selection. Darwin's answer to all the puzzles of the world around us was the theory of natural selection. It includes three important ingredients: variation, inheritance, and differential reproductive success. Now, don't worry, I'm going to explain each. Variation provides the raw materials for evolution to occur. It means that species vary in things like wing mass and trunk size, and these differences are essential for evolution to happen. Next is inheritance, which just means, like you and me, we only inherited some of our genes from our parents. Things like the color of our eyes have been passed down through genes for generations. The final ingredient is differential reproductive success. I know it sounds weird, but all this means is how successful a human or animal is at reproducing. To pass on one's genes, one must successfully reproduce. All of these things combined make up the key ingredients to natural selection, and natural selection is the key to explaining change over time. Now that we know what makes up psychology and evolution, we know what makes up evolutionary psychology. This area of study wants to know if mind and brain mechanisms in human beings can be explained through an evolutionary perspective. In my opinion, it is so fascinating to think about why we are the way we are, and evolutionary psychology holds some of those answers. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed. Please give me any questions you may have.